could you speak to the challenge of Zach Evans and Max Duggan? Obviously, two guys that can run the ball pretty well in Max offense.
Yeah. It obviously begins with both of those guys. I mean, you just look at those when you allow them to establish the run, and you got a quarterback that's big and that fast. Both of them have really good speed. Just able to, get the ball going. But that's definitely where it begins. And then they got excellent skill at wide receiver, so they can stretch you horizontally and vertically. You just got to make sure you keep everything inside and in front, and don't let them just sit there and tee off on us and run the ball.
It seems like so many guys quarterbacks nowadays have that run-pass ability, but what makes Duggan so different?
Hey, maybe he runs 4.3. I mean, guy's got. He's not just. He doesn't have good speed. That guy's fast, and he's big, and that 6'2", 214 pounds and run a 4.3. I mean, the guy can run, and we got great respect for him. Competing against him the last 2 years, and you just hats off to him. He's a great player.
What do you like about your defense's response this past weekend? Obviously, last weekend you were joking about, you were surprised it wasn't something to cut the head off. But
yeah.
What do you like, especially that first half, and how they came out and really took it?
It didn't surprise me at all. I mean, like I told you a week ago, though, everybody. I mean, they knew they didn't perform to the level that they have and the expectations that they have for themselves and for each other and our team. And I talked to them all week long about what's inside of a man comes out of a man, and here's an opportunity to show people what you're really made of, and they did the first half. Got a little loose there in the third quarter, gave up a double cut, and then gave up a third down and 10, which just absolutely should not have happened. We got to get down on people on 3rd and 10, and that should have never happened. But when you let things like that happen, I tell them all the time, anytime you give up a third down, you just extended that drive 4 to 7 plays, and that's pretty much what happened. But you can't give our kids enough credit for they come out, they go 3 and out, sack, cause, fumble. And with the first 3 series, we played 9 plays. So that just shows you what happens when you get off the field on 3rd down. If not, typically those drives will extend 4 to 7 plays. Well, if you had 21 more plays on those 3 drives, and then all of a sudden, instead of playing 30 plays in the first half, you're sitting there playing in the upwards of 50. And then that just snowballs on you. And then you don't maybe have as much in the tank at the end of the game when the game's on the line. So I thought that was huge the way we started. And I also think that had something to do with the way we finished. Okay, we still had fuel in the tank.
What was the attitude of the guys in practice today?
That's what very workmanlike. I mean, that's one of the things that we've tried to, learn from. You go 3-0, and well, you should expect to be 3-0, and then you start listening to everybody tell you, oh man. I mean, and then all of a sudden you don't prepare and you don't get ready, and then all of a sudden, man, you're lowering a snake's belly. And so we've just tried to not let our highs get too high or our lows get too low, just come out. It's all about preparation, okay? We talk about that all the time, whether it be in the film room, game plan, just the way you get treatment, everything goes into, and it's just you got to hit the restart button every week. And that was kind of what it was more like today. And they'll let it build as the week goes on and get ready to go for Saturday.
How did you feel like your secondary reacted Saturday, not only with already having DeMarcus out, but then losing Reggie and co-signing?
Yeah, because what people didn't really understand about that is you lose so you lose DeMarcus, so that takes away Fields, who's been dual training at corner and safety. So I lose Fields at safety, and then Reggie went out, and now I got Nate Floyd out there, and I got Rabbit out there, and it really it kind of just shrinks the amount of coverage you can play, and that was part of it. We just couldn't crank down on them as much as I wanted to. They're in the third quarter. My gut was I was trying to be aggressive, wanted to be aggressive, but I thought, you know what, just don't give up anything cheap, keep making them earn everything, and it worked out in our favor. But man, I wanted to tighten up on them and get after them, but I just didn't feel like I could. I just wanted to make them execute.
We asked Josh Berger how much he had worked at center, and how much had Nate worked at the position he was playing with.
You know, just obviously playing behind two other guys, you know, it's just a next man up mentality. I mean, all those meetings you set in, you may not get the actual physical reps, but you're taking mental reps, you're listening, you're watching. When you're not going, you're watching, whether it be Muddy or whether it be, you know, it was Kosai, and all of a sudden, just like that, you're your third safety at that position, and got thinned out in a hurry. And man, he came in and responded. I loved what I saw. I love what I saw from him today in practice. He is rangy. He is a good little football player, and he continues to get better, and we'll continue to challenge him as we move forward. And that's the other thing I told him, man. The thing about all this stuff, it creates depth, because now we got guys playing that typically may not be playing. So I look at it as a positive, you know, where it's an opportunity to create some depth and find out, you know, what guys are made of.
Had he worked more reps at safety or corner?
Probably 50-50. And thank goodness, because he was strictly emergency at that position. And so during camp, there'd be days where he'd go straight corner, and then there were days where he would go at safety. And man, I'm glad we did it, because it sure turned out to be, it's like anything else. I mean, you know, you're sitting there and you make the trip, and some of those guys, you know, I asked him, I said, hey, did you expect to be in the game at the end of the game with a game on the line? You might have prepared, you know, differently. And I think it was an eye-opening experience for a lot of our young guys that, man, you're one play away from being on the field.
What makes a guy like Colin so special? Because I think when we saw that he's got like 16 double-digit tackle games in college, which I assume you just don't trip into.
I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out still myself. I mean, he walks in the building, he looks like Tony Hawk, you know, prop his skateboard up and got his skater shoes on, and like you just like go. I mean, it just doesn't. The visual doesn't actual match up with the production and the performance from the guy. But he's, you know, he's just so naturally instinctive. I mean, like just like that play he made. I mean, I don't know if anybody noticed. I put him in a different position than he played all year long. I mean, it's his third position. He's played 3 different linebacker positions, and I bumped him and Krishan inside. I mean, Rico inside, and played with Pierre on the perimeter. And you know, he's just a football. I don't know. I mean, what you call it. I mean, I really don't. I know he's just a natural. I mean, he really is. I mean, like. So we put him in there, and he hadn't ran those pressures or stunts all year long. And I mean, he just runs through there, takes the shoulder away, slips through there, strip sack the quarterback. Like, that's just what we do. I mean, like, it was amazing. That was a great play.
Now, following up on that, Krishan and Brandon Randall did not play as many snaps.
Yeah. You know, I just my own personal assessment from the Texas game was we're playing too many people. You know, I thought we played too many people, and what happened was, and it got exposed, was the communication. When you got a guy like Rico Jeffers out there, he sounds like a coach. He's an incredible communicator. But all of a sudden, he's off the field, and now all of a sudden you got a certain group of people out there, and the communication is not the same. They're trying to tempo you. All of a sudden, panic sets in. We don't get lined up. We're outflanked, knocking us off the ball, and it just turned into a total meltdown. I mean, so. You know, at the end of the day, you know, this is a performance-based business, and that's players included. And, you know, I just streamlined who we're going to put on the field, and it's just the way it is. And, you know, we got great depth, but, man, can't play everybody, you know. And, man, when you look at, I mean, those 2 guys have 25 tackles between the 2 of them, 6 and number 17. I mean, geez, that's hard to argue against, you know.
Coach, sorry if there's an obvious answer to this, but obviously I know you've got up against TCU plenty of times yourself. When you have a guy like Sonny in the building who just knows those players and work with them every day, do you ever in this week like pick his brain and say, hey, you know, what does this kid struggle with, or what do you notice that kid has done well?
Yeah. I always pick Sonny's brain. I mean, like, you know, I mean, it just, we used to call it across the hall. I mean, it just makes, you know, sense to, hey, you know, especially air raid people. I mean, I'd be crazy not to talk to the guy, huh? I mean, so I do it all the time. I don't just do it just because we're playing TCU. I just people all the time. They're doing certain things, and I just say, Sonny, what are they doing here? Whether it be protection-wise or route combination-wise, or you know, something in their protection or whatever it is. I mean, I'm always asking him, you know, what people are trying to do and things like that, and bouncing ideas off of him. So, yeah, this week's not any different for me. I mean, obviously he's got tremendous insight into personnel, and you know. But you know, he's got his own, you know, issues and things to deal with, so try not to bother him too much.
Got time for about 2 more.
How about the pass rush where Jalen got the sack?
Yeah, it was a nice move. We brought a field pressure, and he just got off on the ball and just went right by that center. And man, what was impressive about it was how fast he got from like where I'm standing to you. I mean, he just sucked up on that quarterback like a 180-pounder. I mean, it was unbelievable. That was impressive. That was a very impressive play, and yeah, he did a nice job executing. He stunted to the backside A-gap and got vertical and smoked him.
So when you have, going off of the secondary thing for a little bit, you talked about, you know, when guys come in games where maybe they didn't think they would, you have to maybe simplify the coverages and not do as many. So with that in mind, the next week, do you then, what's more important in preparation? Is it making those coverages more, you know, down to every little detail good, or working some more coverages in?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, like, I think it just depends on the guys that you have and not only their ability, but what are you facing, you know, that particular week. So you gear everything obviously to what you're going to see, and you try to match it up the best you can, and then you know, then you look at, okay, who's available this week, and you know, it's been a common theme here for 3-4 weeks or so. So I mean, you just kind of look at it and go, hey, you know, at the end of the day, you know, it's a, like I've said, it's a next man up mentality, and our guys, you know, we're not going to lower their standard just because whether they've been playing or not been playing. I mean, that bar is going to stay right there at the same height that it's been all year long, and we expect them to meet that expectation.
Coach, just in terms of, obviously, you know, TCU week, a team you're familiar with, Coach Patterson says he leans on you sometimes for advice on, regardless of opponent, but this week in particular, just with your knowledge of their personnel and guys that are on that team, do you feel like, is it more like you have to be like, okay, this guy can do this and this guy, do you find yourself giving that type of advice to people on the team about just these different little areas because you know the team so well?
Yeah, you know, I know a lot of the guys, you know, obviously really well, but, you know, on defense, they're playing with a lot of newer guys that I haven't been as familiar with. Coach Patterson's going to have them ready to go. I mean, he's going to have them coached up. They're going to be flying around, and I know that, you know, they're going to be prepared really, really, really well. And so you try as best as you can to, you know, on some of the experiences that you've had with him. But at the end of the day, his preparation and his ability to break people down is second to none. And he'll have them ready to go. And it's my job to have this offense ready to go. And it'll be a fun challenge, you know, and you know, I have a ton of respect for him. And I've learned a lot from him. And so to go against them, you know, you just have to. It's going to be, you know, pull up your pants, tighten up your belt, because it's going to be a long day. And similar to what we just came off of with West Virginia. I mean, defensively, they're a really tough team on defense, but those guys, you know, it's Coach Patterson and his defensive staff, and they do a great job.
Is there going to be any, you know, pregame emotions like when you had your first game back here kind of way, where it's going to be a little bit weird?
It's always weird. I don't. Weird's not the right word. You know, it's just. You know, when you coach and when you relate to people, you know, that's challenging a little bit. But at the end of the day, my responsibility is to prepare Texas Tech, prepare Henry, prepare Barron, prepare Donovan, you know, prepare Maverick, prepare Parker and our whole offensive staff and our offensive players. And that's what my focus is on, is really just preparing our team as best as possible to try to find another way to win a football game.
In terms of Henry, what were you most impressed with in what he did on Saturday?
I think that he was, again, very calm, very poised. and he just doesn't really get too high, doesn't get too low. There was a lull for us offensively in the third quarter, and he really answered that. And I think you saw the first quarter and a half of the game, the momentum was clearly on our side. The crowd was out of it because of his execution. I mean, knew where to go with the ball, didn't make it that complicated. Guy was open on some of the RPO tag stuff, and he threw it to him. And so he does a great job of that. And you know, we're going to see a ton of different stuff defensively this week, and he's going to have to kind of stay same level-headed and stay same the course, you know, this week as well.
What do you think's allowed Kalen to be such a weapon? Because he had kind of a slow start, but now it seems like he's really finding his groove with that offense.
Yeah, I think it's us all getting comfortable with Kalen and Kalen getting comfortable with us, his skill set, what he's really good at, and trying to find ways to get him the ball and isolate him. So the kid's a freaking competitor. I mean, if you watch him out here practicing every day, he practices the same speed as he plays on Saturdays, and that's a result of, a lot of times kids, the consistency of doing it over and over and over again, you want the results like the next play. But he understands, he's a very humble kid. He's had a very long road to get to this point, and he's very appreciative of where he's at and works really hard.
I'm sorry, you play with Nehemiah Glover.
Mm-hmm.
Is Kalen like Nehemiah? Size and speed?
Yeah, I would say he's similar. I think very similar. Nehemiah, is put together a little bit more, not as tall as KG, but I would say that's probably pretty accurate. Yeah. I don't think Kalen, he doesn't talk as fast as Nehemiah did. Nehemiah talked really fast. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
How is Sir Roger coming along with 2 touchdowns last
Yeah, you can tell he's getting his game legs under him. He's definitely playing faster. That game against West Virginia, especially in the second half, breaking tackles, breaking arm tackles, and playing really fast. And I think that's part of him just getting back into game shape. So I'm really excited with how he ended that game.
What do you remember as a player playing in night games at the Jones, a blackout? I mean, it's super special.
Oh yeah, it's I used to remember it as being the black hole in terms of playing games at night. The students were rocking; they would show up early. The place was everybody wearing black, and our play really lended itself to having a rowdy crowd, and that's what we want to try to create Saturday. But our student section is awesome. You've seen what they've done from football. You see what they do over with the Raider Riot over in basketball, and try to create that atmosphere Saturday night. In every game we play, whether it's at night, whether it's in the morning, but particularly at night. When you black out at Jones, it's the black hole.
And it's homecoming, so do you have any special message for the students especially? I mean, this is a big game. Maybe they
this is a huge game. This is a huge game because we were able to win last week, and we'd love for the students to turn out just like they have, our previous 2 home games. It's been a great crowd. It's been a great game day atmosphere. The kids have been fired up, and really our team has fed off that energy, and we want to continue to provide play where they feed off us, and it's a deal where the students and then us as a team really play off one another and create a home field advantage that people really don't want to come and play us at.
Coach, I know you kind of alluded to it, but I guess if you could just kind of look back to your time at TCU and kind of how your relationship with Coach Patterson evolved.
It was good. Shoot, part of my maturation as a coach, a lot of it I've really owed to him, and a lot of the lessons that I learned from him. And so, I'm a very appreciative of Coach Patterson. Very appreciative. He's probably, one of the top coaches there is as far as a young coach. Took a chance on me, and really stood behind me a lot. But at the end of the day, he taught me a lot of things about for 3 hours what you have to do opponent-wise too, and prepare your mindset. And so that's the mindset that I've learned from him, and a lot of other things. But I love him as a coach. He's been very good to me and my family. So, yeah. Yeah.
Just in terms of, we talked about Donovan and kind of some of the reps he's getting in games now. Is that more a product of him being more comfortable in the offense now versus maybe week 1, or do him and Henry kind of work in tandem maybe a little bit better?
Yeah, I think Henry is incredibly mature about it. He understands why we're doing it, and he understands what element that Donovan adds to our offense, and is really excited about it. I think Donovan, when he caught the ball and he ran on the play, we ran him on the first one. It's like he realized, like, you're 235 pounds. Like, people really probably don't want to tackle you, and so hopefully he had a really good look at him in his eye. And that was a big environment. I mean, that's a hard place to play, and for a kid who's never taken a meaningful snap to go in and the first 3rd and short and do what he did, and potentially 1 tackle away from having an explosive run. And so you're as a coach, that's good to see.
After watching you,
Yeah.
I was going to say, Sonny, Loic is sitting over there. You know, last week at Texas, he makes a big play. The game was kind of out of hand, and this week he makes a big play. Well, you got to have it. What has his development been like? What have you seen from him over the last month?
It's been huge. Right out there for 3 weeks, he's been doing that. You know, he's been making plays. He's been very consistent with his hands. I think that's his biggest thing, is he's caught the ball really consistently well for the last 3 weeks. And then he went out, and you said it, like, in arguably the biggest moment of the game on a 3rd and 4, the first play of the fourth quarter, where that place was going nuts. The one time they come up and play man in our face, 2-man, and he runs right by the guy and makes a huge play. So I think that speaks volumes to his ability to step up. And I really am proud of our players, of how they rallied. There was never anybody that blinked as far as these guys down, these guys are down, this guy's not playing. It was like full steam ahead, and you saw guys step up and make plays, Loic being one of them.
Sorry, real quick, what makes this TCU defense unique? Obviously, you've seen plenty.
Yeah, their speed, and then, you know, Coach Patterson's his mind for defense. And ability to call defenses and to match the strengths of what his players can do really well to what you try to do on offense. And I think that's the thing that he does a really good job of, is putting his players in positions to be successful, clear-minded, and they play fast.